Hey, what's up,
Aye,
everybody?
aye, Captain. I'm
I'm
sorry.
trying to do my intro here. If you could please stop.
Shut the fuck
Shut up,
up.
Tori! Anyways, welcome everyone to the Gamer House channel. My name is Snowman, and we're here to talk about some Overwatch 2. You know, for
Oh,
those of us who could get into the game.
no, I get it. Right.
I'm
Okay. Uh-huh.
I'm
Yeah, no,
joined
go
here
ahead now.
by.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead right now.
Are you? I'm a slow speaker. I have to process everything.
No, continue. Go ahead.
I'm joined here by Ryanrellish. Say hello to the people.
Leaves Discord.
Um, just here to talk about a couple things, thoughts, concerns for Overwatch 2. Um, the fact that they completely removed Overwatch 1, they're staying on the same servers, updated their anti-cheat. Here to kind of talk about all the changes, things that stayed the same, things we're excited for, things we're not so excited for. So,
Let's talk about your tweet first, right? Let's start there.
okay.
So we're all concerned about, you know, how the game's gonna feel, how it's gonna play. People are mad because a lot of changes weren't actually made, and they just kind of slapped a new title on the game. When in actuality, there's been a bunch of stuff that's changed, and like we said in your tweet, it's like with Warzone, going to Warzone 2. At this point, the only thing that's changed for Warzone 2, right, would be the map and the movement. You can't say the same with Overwatch because there's a bunch of stuff that has changed, like TTK, new maps, new modes,
New mechanics.
5v5. Um, and I don't know where people are getting off saying like it's not or it's the same game when it's not the same game.
I will preface everything we're about to talk about with maybe it's just my opinion, but this is my video. Fuck off. Overwatch 2 is not the same game as Overwatch 1 in the slightest. There is not a single thing other than your cosmetics that transferred over for those that can get their account merged and aren't waiting in queue for 7 days. Everything that you bought on all these previous accounts, they're looking on merging over to one particular account and keeping it that way so that you can access everything on every console, PC, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, whatever you play on. Right? This is a completely different game, and everything down to how you have to think about your next move has to be different than it was in Overwatch 1.
Let's give them an example since we got to play the game, right? My example that I'm going to give here of how different things are is with the 5v5. You are either in a very fast-paced battle where you have your team fight and then it's done, it's over with in like 15-20 seconds, or that team fight lasts for about 37 fucking years. And I'm okay with that because it makes the game go by, in my opinion, which is a good thing because it gets more people playing more games. The game goes by a little faster. I don't want to sit here. I mean, I know it's going to change in competitive. Maybe it won't. Who knows? We haven't tried competitive 5v5. But I don't want to sit here and fight the same three people and hold a point for fucking 20 minutes. At least in quick play. Competitive is a different story. That's understandable. But, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, to me, this gets people in the game, you know, the game's done and over with in like 15, 20 minutes less time frame than what it was in Overwatch 1. Then you're into the next game. It's keeping you constantly playing. And I think that's a good marketing product for Overwatch 2. That's a good change because, some people don't want to, fucking hold a point for 45 minutes. And like if it's the payload, right? I don't want to sit there at point fucking A for 20 minutes because my team can't move the fucking point. Or we'll move the point but it takes the entire time frame to move it, which I think is 5 minutes each time, and there's 4 fucking points to move it to.
I think it typically depends each time, depending on how big or small the map is, but that's besides the point. So we'll put a clip in. I got to play the game while playing last night as Reinhardt. Kind of go over my thoughts and everything while making said play, right? Because we have officially moved over to a faster game mode, which in an FPS setting, you have to compare it to not only Overwatch 1, but every FPS in the genre. So you have the Call of Duty franchise, you have Halo, even as far as
Valorant.
going Apex, all of your BRs that are FPSs. You have Fortnite, which is third-person shooter by nature, but it runs on the same mentality of trying to get players in and out so that there are more games played, so that their game stays more relevant than their competitors, which is a good change. I don't think a lot of players are ready, although they've had like 4 years to get ready since Overwatch 2 was first announced, to prepare for major game changes. So you have the 5v5 aspect where you only have one person guarding your entire team. If that person runs off, they have to ensure that their team is safe, that you are in a safe spot to make a play, and you have to have enough trust in your teammates to make sure not only that they don't die, but that you don't die as well. There's a lot more going through a player's mind in Overwatch 2 than there ever was in Overwatch 1 because you had more people to rely on in Overwatch 1. With that second tank being there, you can leave and go do whatever the hell you want because you really don't have to worry about the team if you're the only one pushing things.
I mean, on top of that too, right? Like I said in your tweet, like it gives the DPS more to do instead of just trying to get clips and kills. They have to protect their healers. They have to help protect their tank, while their tank is also protecting them. Because there's only one of them. And everybody's gonna, if you go after the healers, support, whatever, your tank is pretty much a fish out of water.
Exactly. And that leaves your entire team in jeopardy to receiving major punishment from the enemy team for seeing that opportunity and seizing it as soon as the tank goes down, or as soon as your healers go down, or as soon as they realize that you have no DPS alive to put damage out to the enemy team.
Because that happened to us, what, in our first game last night? I mean, I know we still won, but I'm pretty sure that happened in our first game where our tank just kept running off and doing its own thing, and we were left to just fight for our fucking lives.
We were huddled like penguins to try and pick people off one by one to make any sort of progress.
It just gives the players more to think about, and I think that's going to be good for competitive. Because there's going to be new strategies that have to be learned, whether people want to or not.
As a disclaimer, any thoughts on competitive are purely speculation because we did not get the chance to play competitive as not everyone in our group was able to load in or is ready for competitive, whether it be the wins or however else that they're not ready for.
I'm just saying I have one more win than you do. Anyways, I got that off my chest. We can continue with the video now.
We'll continue on with what I said in my tweet, which you guys can find at my Twitter at _ Mr. Burner. The second thing I brought up was the characters that they plan on adding, the fact that they want to add all these characters, and obviously they're going to come out super overpowered. They're going to tweak them so that they fit into the flow of the game and not be a huge game changer like we've seen in the past where, for instance, the release of Echo came out and she essentially was the better version of Pharah. You have more people flying around, which leads to a lot more hit scan players queuing up as hit scan versus what they normally would like to play, to make sure that this threat is dealt with until she finally got nerfed and reworked and dealt with so that she's not constantly berating teams with how broken she was. Same with Junker Queen and Sojourn. They put out a lot of damage. Like Junker Queen for a tank was putting out DPS levels of damage and still being able to basically take on full teams by yourself. You have Sojourn, who initially started out with being able to basically take out an entire team besides tanks, and then her weapons loaded up so that she can, beam people from wherever she was in the map, getting free eliminations, free ult charge, which is that same beam, but you have like 3 or 4 shots versus your normal one that you have to charge up. Personally, I think that keeping a character broken for just a short period of time for people to learn it, no more than a couple days, like a work week tops. 5 days is more than enough time for people to come into the game, learn the character, play with the character, kind of learn their set, and then go ahead and tweak them, nerf them into the ground if you so choose.
And unless they're new to the game, considering you have to, I think it's like 100 hours, I said, to unlock all the heroes.
I don't see that as a huge problem. Obviously,
I mean, nobody's going to log 100 hours in a week. Unless you're like 12 and don't have a life.
I mean, that's fair. But for existing characters, like, I have the game pulled up in the background just so I have stuff to go off of. Like, your Mei, Genji, Hanzo, Roadhog, Lucio, Mercy. You have all these characters that, if you didn't play the first game, are huge staples to how the game plays.
I mean, from what it looks like, too, they're going to be putting these new characters behind the Battle Pass. You don't just get, like, full access, you know what I mean?
Which is okay. It's a marketing scheme for them at this point. Because then their players have to put at least their $10 into the game to buy the Battle Pass to then grind it out.
Let's finish with what you were saying here, because then I want to talk about some of the cons, like some of the people who are complaining about shit. So let's finish what you have here. That's a big bullet point for me, because I can't stand people who complain about a game that is literally either just come out or hasn't come out yet.
So Overwatch 2 being extremely fresh, you have obviously new characters that are going to come out to the existing cast of characters that they have. I still think that they should give the character some time to breathe and be learned, so that they, as the creators of the game, the developers, have time to see the character in action from more than one point of view, to see what's truly broken, what's exploitable, what about the character makes it such a huge game changer when queuing into a game.
I'm still really new to Overwatch. How new, like, what characters are like the newest characters that were not in Overwatch 1?
So the 3 that came out with Overwatch 2, we have Junker Queen, which, for those of you who haven't played yet or haven't seen anything on the character, very similar to Roadhog's playstyle. She has an attack that can apply a small short-term bleed effect.
That's the axe, right?
Yeah.
I got hit with that last night. I'm like, well, why did I die so fast? That makes more sense.
So she's meant to be aggressive. They did, before the full game came out in the beta, they nerfed some of the damage that she does with like her shotgun, and not giving her an excess of overheal or shielding from her shout. You have Sojourn, which is basically Soldier, but instead of sprinting, you have a power slide that you can then jump after to give you a massive mobility buff to reaching certain high grounds, making sure that you're not, standing in one place, relying on your keyboard or your thumbstick movement alone. Her main weapon charges up her secondary fire, which is a beam attack, which I don't remember the exact damage calculations, but typically to most DPS and support characters, it is a 1 shot to the head and 2 shots to a tank for headshots. She's really fun, not super broken, kind of like Soldier was at the beta stage, but still a very reliable character for most team comps. And then Kiriko, which for those of you who follow the game, those of you who played, she's the new support. She has quite the array of weapons and skills. Her main attack, or her damage attack, is her kunai. It does a lot of damage. If you didn't catch the stream from Ryan last night, where we were in the training area, the practice range, to kind of show off the type of damage she does, I'd recommend going back and watching the stream. Go find any videos on her that you can, because they basically looked like they were making another DPS character and slapped healing on her.
Yeah, just without the health.
Right. And then her healing, correct me in the comments if I'm saying this wrong, her healing Ofuda are these little tags that she throws. So you would click once to start the healing, kind of like beam, or where she's throwing the cards, and then you would click again to stop it if you didn't want to use all of them. Otherwise, it automatically uses all of the cards that you have reloaded or held at the time. It does do quite a bit of healing, but you do need to protect the character enough for the healing to get off, because as soon as she dies, the healing stops, whether it's mid-flight or not. So if I'm healing someone, say I'm healing my tank, they're at like half health, I start throwing these out, I get them up to 3/4 of a bar of health, and then I'm dying as I'm still healing. All of that healing that I've already thrown out just stops. So that tank is left there with 3/4 of a bar of health, and our other healer who has to pick up where I left off. And then you have the Protection Suzu, which prevents damage from you and any allies in the surrounding radius of this. Kind of pop it down like a smoke screen. Bullets go through you. I've seen videos of like the Diva Bomb going off, and it doesn't affect any of the characters.
Yeah, my Bastion all popped off and they threw it down and didn't hurt anybody.
It's super helpful, but it does not last very long. It's more reactionary than anything, which leads to a huge skill gap on the character. As far as that, I think the last Overwatch 1 characters that were added were Doomfist, who was initially a DPS character, and Echo, who is, like I had described earlier, a high mobility flying character, similar
Apparently
to Pharah.
The changes to Doomfist apparently were like really good. People enjoyed it. Because he was a tank, right? They moved him to DPS?
He was a DPS and they moved him to tank.
Oh, well, either way, people said that they really liked, the changes they made to him.
I'm kind of shocked at how well it works, because he did put out a lot of damage, but he was very technical in how you had to move him, giving him more health and making him making it less reliant on him to put out damage definitely helped a lot. Because he has a lot of AoE. So he has his punch, his electric fist slam, and then he now has an arm shield versus his uppercut. Which I personally thought was a good change. I like to see him played a lot more slowed down so that, you don't see a Doomfist flying out of left field to uppercut you and then do an 18-piece combo like he's in Mortal Kombat.
One fucker out there looking like Liu Kang. Instead of a bicycle kick, it's bicycle fists.
Straight up. Get uppercut and then he charges his fist while he's uppercutting you and punches you off the map from 30 feet away.
Oh, shit. All right. Let's talk about the cons. And one of my biggest cons right now is the fact that people are talking shit about this game already, and it hasn't even been out for a full day. And I won't say it's been out for a full day until the DDoS attacks stop, because not everybody gets the chance to play it. So it's basically still just a fucking beta at this point.
It's like a selective beta with how few and far between it is to get into the game and actually be able to play it. It's like, your turn's over. Next person up for the beta.
So these are the things that I'm seeing, because like I said, I want to talk about the people who are complaining, and I don't think they have a right to complain yet. People are complaining that the new character is hidden behind a paywall. People are complaining that 5v5 isn't it. People are complaining that the sound is off and the graphics look like shit. Those are the four main complaints that I've heard already, and the game hasn't been out for a day.
So, technically, the character isn't behind a paywall. No one just wants to put in time to unlock a free character at tier 55. They would rather, spend $10 on the battle pass to have access to it right away, to see the character at its release, to kind of learn it before the competitive curve comes to playing it. Which is cool. I like the fact that people are interested enough in a character to complain that it's behind a paywall, even though it's technically not, simply because they want to learn something about a game that either they stopped playing or, learn something about a game that they're just now picking up. I don't see it as a huge flaw. The fact that...
And I don't. We've seen Call of Duty do it for the past, 2.5 years? For skins?
For skins, or just for the guns that you have to unlock in the Battle Pass.
The DLC. I mean, you don't see people complaining about that. I mean, they're free, so... And so is this character. This character's free. You just have to put the time and effort into the Battle Pass and do your challenges, and you'll unlock it eventually. I mean, there's really nothing to complain about there. I don't understand. I just don't understand people, I guess. In my old age, I suppose, I don't understand the kids these days. What was the next part? Oh, how 5v5 isn't it?
Like I stated at the beginning of the video, they have a lot of competition, most of which came out this year or is coming out this year. So they have a lot of these different games that they have to stand out from, first off, which they already do. This is almost a one-of-a-kind fucking game, other than the fact that, TF2 exists. But it's
I
It's
mean, I
more
would say
popular than that game.
the only other game that I could compare it to would be Valorant, but that's more along the lines of like CS:GO meets League of Legends.
You have these abilities with their ability cooldowns or specific number of uses that you have to basically use as a team, right? Your abilities aren't your abilities. Like, even for instance, let's go to a pretty basic character. We have Mercy. Mercy's res has to be used to benefit the entire team. You can't just go and res your best friend because they're your best friend. Now, if your best friend is doing, 15,000 damage compared to, the total of the team being like 10,000, yeah, that's a good res. You res them, you make sure they stay alive, you get them to cover, and go from there. Or like,
I noticed you said that because I'm pretty much the only person you rezzed last night, so
I mean, fair. Or even for instance, your ultimate abilities. Well, we'll choose a random character here, right? We have Mei. So her ultimate, her blizzard, you throw this drone down. In a selected area, it freezes enemies to allow for your team to go in and pick people off that aren't shooting back. Basically, it is a crowd control that allows your team to literally fight fucking target dummies. You can't just throw that in. Oh, you have a Genji in a room by himself. I'm not just going to throw my Blizzard in there to pick off this one Genji when there's 4 other people standing on point between me, my team, and the objective. I'm going to throw that at the 4 people that I can get off point, and the Genji's no longer a threat because he has no one to hide on. He has nowhere to go but towards us to stop us from capturing the point. So your abilities aren't your abilities. You have to play as a team, which a lot of games can't force you to do, like Call of Duty for Hardpoint, right? You and your team are collectively supposed to be trying to capture this hardpoint, yet you have a lot of, whether it be content creators, kill racers, just random people that you queued up with that are going out for kills or clips or this, that, or the other thing. That's not the point. The point was for the team to work together, but there's nothing specifically saying or limiting you to, hey, this is how I want to play. The Overwatch game has literally, it's going to sound bad on the company, but basically brainwashed all of these people that play the game to either play as a team or die, right? Because if you're not playing as a team, you're just going to keep sitting at spawn every 15, 20 seconds, and then you're going to go out and do it again. And then you can't run out by yourself. You have to work with your team to make any headway. Otherwise, you're going to leave spawn, and then you're going to die again. And it's just going to be a vicious cycle of, what am I doing wrong? What can my teammates do? What can I do? Right? It's become this bigger picture of, hey, I am Genji, right? I can't just run out and be like, okay, well, fuck my team. They can all survive on their own. I'll go on and take this team. But the other team's like, hey, there's a Genji by himself, and, they freeze you, they stun you, they do whatever they need to. They get you out of the way. You're no longer a threat, and now your team's in trouble because they don't have 5 people. It's now 4v5, and they have to wait for you to take your 15, 20, sometimes up to a minute to get back to the progress that you guys made.
Yeah. I mean, let's take, when we were really getting into Overwatch 1, we all purchased it again. We were controlling the game, and then they started picking us off one by one, and then everybody kept going back to point one at a time. Nobody would group up. And eventually, somebody had to take charge, whether that it was you or me, and, tell people just to fucking sit back and wait for the rest of the team to move up to mid and retake point. I mean, it all has to do with maps and stuff too. Because sometimes, I mean, I get what you're saying, don't solo, but sometimes there are characters that certain maps they have an advantage, in my opinion. Like the map that I'm talking about it's the night map with like you're in the gazebo. It's not night anymore, I guess, but you're the points in like the gazebo thing, and you can get
Yep.
pushed off by like Lucio or fucking what's the tank?
Hamster ball.
No, the other guy. Or is he a support? His alt is like lifting you up and slamming you to the
Ah,
ground.
Sigma.
Yeah, like his base attack can just push you off the edge. Those types of characters, I think, could solo a team if given the right, circumstances. But I understand what you're saying, and I completely agree with what you're saying. They have basically based their game around, playing as a team and not trying to go off and do your own thing, especially now with 5v5.
Which, again, for those of you saying that 5v5 isn't it, I'm going to say this as bluntly as possible. You are blinded by the fact that Overwatch 1 has been 6v6 for literally 6 years. You don't know any better because you haven't played the game enough to fully understand the capabilities of 5 people. You're still salty over the fact that maybe your favorite team to watch in the Overwatch League no longer has those 2 tank collaborations, right? You are salty over the fact that you and your best friend that both play tank can't play tank at the same time anymore. So you guys can't control a game simply by playing how you guys normally play. You have to think more for the rest of your team than you do for yourself, and I thoroughly believe that that part of the community doesn't need to play the game.
This video is going up on Friday, yes?
I thought my upload was tomorrow.
Is it? I thought Logan's was Thursdays and yours was Friday.
Well, it'll be ready for either day.
Your day is Friday, I'm pretty sure.
That works.
And the reason I say that, anyways, moving forward, so basing off what you just said, right? People are blinded. And we really go more into depth about stuff like this. If you want to, return tomorrow, aka Saturday, for our why Warzone 2 was ruined. So we talk about this exact same thing. People are blinded by basically, let's just call it nostalgia.
For a lack of better terms, it is purely nostalgic factor.
Everybody's used to the way the game plays, and nobody wants change. And then whenever they don't get enough change, right, they then say, well, the game didn't change enough, so I'm not going to play it anymore.
Or the player
like
base asks for the wrong things to be changed.
Return, tomorrow for a better explanation for that, because just a little quick snippet. Warzone 2 is basically Warzone 1, just a new engine and a new map. That's it. And it's the same thing here.
He's right,
People are complaining that it's the same game. That just because they changed it to 5v5 doesn't mean it's not the same. It's different. It's completely different.
And like I said, somewhere in the video I will have a clip from my play of the game from last night. I did manage to save it before I was kicked off the servers. And I will do a breakdown of everything that's going through my head while this is playing out, and I will pause and explain and make sure that everything is in place to make sure that everyone understands the difference between why I made the play there versus if I were to make the play in Overwatch 1.
And then what was the last thing that I said was the complaint? You remember?
I do not off the top of my head. I can probably find it on my Twitter somewhere.
So it was the 5v5. Oh, the sound. The sound and graphics. I got it. So let's talk about that. And then we can, try to end the video on a high note.
So, personally, I think the graphics are a W. It's more cartoony. It's more appealing to the younger audience that they're trying to bring into the game so that, they fall in love with a game that they've put time and effort into building and making as good as possible. That's been thriving for 6+ years. Just because it's reskinned does not mean that it's bad. Any of the gun sounds or anything are to fit the theme of the game, which is a more cartoony look than the original. It's essentially a way for Blizzard as a company to bring in a wider array of audience so that they can continue to thrive, continue to put out content for the game, whether it's having you buy the battle pass for your character that's behind a paywall, in quotes. They will find a way to make sure that the game is appealing to the 99% versus the 1% of players that don't like the game.
Which another game company should, review that and take it and run. Not stating any names or anything. But
you can find out what he's talking about on tomorrow's video.
You could indeed. Make sure you click that like and that subscribe button, and maybe hit the bell notification so that way you get notifications whenever we upload or go live. But I personally think the graphics are good. I don't think the gun sounds sound off. I think people, maybe their computers or consoles just can't handle it, I guess. That sounds like a them problem, because I feel like everything is a W. The only cons that I have are cons that I'm going to have to get used to, which are the changes to like some of my main characters, like Bastion. I mean, I'm gonna have to get used to his turret mode being on a timer. But that's an easy workaround. I just have to play a little bit more tactfully. But other than that, I mean, I don't have anything else. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. I think all in all, everything's good changes, and I mean, it's gonna be fun to play. And another big W that I want to touch on before we end here, right? Is it's no longer by level. It's you have to win 50 quick play games, and then competitive's open to you. I love that change.
That is actually perfect, because then you cannot sit there and there was something wrong with Overwatch's original algorithm for putting people in matches. Essentially, you can rig the system so that you're placed in lower elo lobbies, lower elo games when you get ranked. So you have Masters people ending up in Bronze because they're tired of, getting shit stomped in Masters. So they go down to Bronze by, doing the bare minimum for a team on a brand new account. Now you have to put in the time and effort, even if you are smurfing, right? You have to put in the time and effort to make sure that your team is going to be able to win, basically without your help. So more people are going to get discouraged by this fact, which is going to help prevent a lot of people from falling into these lower lobbies, like bronze, silver, gold, as a grandmasters or masters or even diamond player, so that they're not, ruining the game for newer people. Probably the biggest W that's come from overall changes to the game.
I mean, you didn't think I could go through a whole video and not make a DDoS joke, right? If we could actually get into the game and get our wins for competitive, that'd be great.
That would be much appreciated if they could continue working on that to make sure that I can go play Mercy for another 200 hours and
who knows,
make sure my team doesn't die.
Maybe by the time this video goes out, the servers will be fixed. But as far as I'm seeing on Twitter, now the DDoS attacks are attacking the European servers, so
maybe they'll leave the American servers alone and we can get in?
Maybe. But as he said, everything's a fucking W. The W's and the positives outweigh the cons and the negatives. That's just all there is to it. And anybody who says otherwise, it sounds like a fucking skill issue to me. And I barely play this game. So, I don't know what you're bitching about. I'm having fun. I had fun for the couple hours that I got to play last night. I had fun in the beta. I think it's better than Overwatch 1, and I barely got to play the game. So,
and from
take that as you will.
And from someone who has been playing and following Overwatch since its release in 2016 now, everything about this game makes it not only a more competitive game, but makes the player base think a little bit more about their actions before they commit to something. So if you have any thoughts or discretions or any complaints that you want to bring up in the comment section below, go ahead. I will be replying to every single one of them with either, hey, I totally agree with where you're coming from, or I will simply tell you that you're wrong in thinking the way you do because you're blinded by the fact that Overwatch 1 treated you a certain way for 6 years, or however long you've played.
I mean, from what you've told me, right, Overwatch 1 was like a bad relationship.
Correct.
I don't think you're going to get the same thing in Overwatch 2. I really don't. I think it's going to be a good game-to-player relationship, and I mean, of course, you're going to have those games where you rage, but I don't think we're going to get dicked around like we did in Overwatch 1. Where they say they're bringing something out, and then it takes, 7 months to do so.
Or 4 years for Overwatch 2 to come out.
Yeah, a.k.a. this game. But I will also reply to comments on this video with my personal account. So, yeah. Let us know your feedback. And that's all I got.
We'll go ahead and wrap up the video with a high point here, not to waste any more of your time. But if I could give the game a rating based off of the pros and cons that we currently have, I would give it a generous 8.5 out of 10. The only issues that I personally have, disregarding any of the queue times that come with the game coming out yesterday, and you still have to wait for the 1 million plus ahead of you, but simply because of personal things that I find that they shouldn't have removed, whether it's a game mode or, certain tech that were taken out, which I didn't cover in the video. Maybe we'll do a second video after we play some competitive. Give it a month or so. Be on the lookout for that if we decide to do it. Otherwise, Ryan, if you'd like to give your rating, and we'll call it there.
I'll be super generous. I'll give it a 9. A 9 out of 10.
What is keeping it from being a 10?
The queue times, personally, and some of the minute changes that they made to certain characters. I mean, again, me being a Bastion main, I didn't think he was overpowered, but that's because I was getting 40 plus kills a game. So, I just have to get used to it, and maybe it'll become a 10. But that's about it. I mean, some of the changes they made to other characters, that's what's keeping it to be a 10. Like you said, we're not going to get into it, but, you know, a certain character that you may or may not have put, you know, over 700 hours on, that technical thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that right now, but because that's a whole video by itself. But that's what's keeping it from being a 10. Because like I said, the competitive aspect, the whole fucking only needing 51s to get in, not being level fucking 400, that's W. So just some of the little changes to characters here and there, and the constant DDoS attacks that they can't seem to fix. That's what's keeping it from being a 10. That's just a personal opinion, though. And we'll talk about it more whenever we can actually play competitive. It might change by then, but definitely a solid 8.5, 9 out of 10.
All right, you guys heard it here first. My name is Snowman. Thank you again to Ryan for popping in and helping me out with this. If you guys want, his streams will be linked down below. You can go ahead, check him out. Check anyone else that's tagged down there. Make sure you drop a follow, subscribe, whatever it is, whatever platform it is.
Punch that bell notification, baby.
For more updates on Overwatch 2 and any other games that we cover here on the Gamer House channel, my name is Snowman, and we'll see you next time.
I'ma stay loud, stay proud, never running out, never heading south. I'll be spreading out, call it word of mouth. Can't put me down, I'll be getting loud. You can have it douse, not what I'm about. Have your cloud, it be raining now. I keep making sound, go another round. I'm legend bound, can't stop me now. You don't wanna fuck with me. A slow burn like a disease. Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe. Just tell